welcome back to Nature Recovery Network Tiny Talks. I hope you can all hear me. We've got today a fantastic talk from Sue Chapman, and if any of us ever had the slightest inkling of feeling pleased with ourselves that we got 250 people on a dark January night for the Nature Recovery Network's first meeting, one only has to hear that the Eynsham Society at their first meeting got 500 people. So no room for smugness. And over the last 50 years have planted over 1,000 trees in Eynsham. So it's really exciting to have Sue to tell us all the history of the last 50 years of restoring nature in Eynsham. But another kind of important point, the Nature Recovery Network is not an Eynsham Society or a Green Tea or a community organization, but is hoping to be the connector between all the organizations in Eynsham and surrounding areas and individuals. So the idea of the whole being greater than the sum of the parts, that if we all work together, we can scale up what we're doing, and then maybe start making an impact on reversing the what seems to be an inexorable decline in nature around us. And so just for a very contemporary example of that connection, Eynsham Society's expert gardeners have just been helping the Parish Council with Ross Macken do the winter maintenance pruning of the North playing field car park. So that for me is one of the really exciting developments, that here we have all these experts in Eynsham that can come together and also work with the Parish Council, saving us all money and delivering a kind of expertise that you don't get from your basic maintenance contractor. So over to you, Sue.
All right. My goodness. Last week in the sunshine, we walked up Chilbridge Road towards 12 Acre Farm. Over the fence, a large hare stopped in its tracks and looked at us, and above the larks were singing. Bliss. What a marvellous stretch of countryside we live in at the moment. But let me go back in time to 50 years ago when we first moved into the village. There was a proposal to build 800 houses on the land to the west, very much like there is now. The threat spurred a group of objectors to form the Eynsham Society, and after a parish council meeting, which 500 people attended, the society organised their first walk. It was along the line of the Perimeter Road from the A40 near the Evenlode Hotel to the Stanton Harcourt Road. We positioned a tea urn halfway on the Chilbridge Road for 130 thirsty walkers. The parish newsletter said the youngest was only 3.5 and the oldest within their 70s. Most of us were in our early 30s, so 70 seemed very, very old. Anyway, after much work by us, the inquiry inspector turned the Western development down. The Secretary of State for the Environment overruled him, but in the final twist, the government had to pull the plug on it because of funding problems. Eventually, the Perimeter Road was built on the east side of the village, based on plans the engineer for the Eynsham Society had put forward at the inquiry. It was desperately needed to relieve us from the gravel lorries and other heavy lorries that were not only coming through our streets, but parking to visit the cafe where the vets are now in Mill Street. And many of the time I had to go over to the cafe to say, there's a lorry parked in front of our garage. They used to come for breakfast, lunch and tea. Then, of course, we had to fight to stop infilling up to the bypass. There was Dove House Close, when we watched a goat eat the inspector's plans, and Hazeldean in the conservation area. I don't mind these estates now. They are up and running and have become part of the village, but the constant threat of gravel extraction and housing means access to the countryside is just getting further and further away in all directions. In the year 1980, I was lucky enough to be involved in the Eynsham Circular Walks leaflet. It meant walking our footpaths 2 or 3 times each way. Freeland to the north and south, Lee to the west, and they're both 6 miles, Wolvercote to the east, that was 8 miles, and the classic Thames Walk to the south, 4 miles. We had lots of pub lunches in the process of establishing the route. In a modified format, it is available online. Our elms in Oxfordshire lined our fields and enhanced our streets. With the sun on them and a stormy sky behind, they are the most beautiful of trees. But in the early 70s, we started losing them to Dutch elm disease. The society headed a big fundraising effort to buy, for then enormous sum of £200, equipment and fluid to inject 70 of the most high-profile trees. The fine elm tree in the Mill Street Vicarage Garden and one along Spareacre Lane were our first priorities. Each tree took an hour or 2 to inject because we had to wait for the sap to take up the liquid on a sunny day. So it was very time consuming. But sadly, to no avail, we lost the lot. Actually, I persuaded the owners of 5 of the bigger houses in the village to open their gardens to help raise funds for that venture, which led to the Eynsham Opens Gardens. Something I will always remember, as one weekend we opened, we had 300 people through the front door of Millstone Cottage. We tried a planting scheme to decorate our roundabouts. In fact, Mary Oakley, who was brought up in the Gables, unilaterally planted up the Cassington Road roundabout with shrubs on the premise, but everything was dug up. But I'm afraid everything was dug up quickly by the powers that be. On the premise, the shrubs she put in were a road safety issue. Here is a picture that the then chairman, George Adams, drew. I think he was a golfer. But we did manage to plant lots of daffodils on the verges. The national campaign to plant a tree in 73 was the inspiration for 21 years of hard work by dedicated society members, which Robin Saunders and Dave Russell have continued down the years. And I expect you can see some of the people who are still around now. Sally Moyes, Dave Russell, George Smith, Julia Loken, Roy Wilkinson, Dan Russell, and his two young children. And those were the saplings that were going to be planted. And now, of course, a massive copse. The national campaign, more than 10,040 specimens have been officially mapped. The Queen Mother's clump in the fish ponds, this is the picture of the Queen Mother's clump being planted up, along with Scots pine, redwood, larch and Douglas fir elsewhere on the fish ponds. And ones on the southern bypass and the A40 are all documented. Many of the trees on our streets were planted at the time, too, like the false acacia in the car park. And there, I think, actually, most people have passed on because that was very early on, it was about 1972. The line of the trees in the southern side of the car park planted by us includes the seedling ash tree from our own garden, which is still surviving despite dieback, although it seems to have quite a lot of ivy on it. It doesn't look too happy. In 2000, the Woodland Trust was given money by Sainsbury's to plant 200 millennium woods around the country. As chairman, Mary Fletcher negotiated with them to site the 200th north of the A40. We all helped plant oak, ash, field maple, wild cherry, and crab apples, with a living willow arbor in the middle. It was a grand village occasion involving lots of school children. As a press photographer, I've been called on to provide pictures for various publications. One was illustrating the Eynsham Society's village design statement in the early 2000s. The aim was to provide a planning guide West Oxfordshire District Council could use in compiling their local plan. My pictures are also being used to make a historical record. Here are two much loved trees, which we sadly lost last year. There's the walnut in Station Road and the beech tree in Newland Street, both iconic trees, and they're sorely missed. Thanks are due to Joan Stonham, who's put a lot of old pictures online. I became a parish councillor with two objects in mind. One was to relieve the church square of so many parked cars, many of which we found were using the area as a park and ride, just leaving their cars there all day. After years of negotiations, we managed to get funding to pave the large area in front of the Bartholomew Room and plant 2 liquid amber trees, which are now beautifully decorated at Christmas, and they look so nice in the summer. The other was to create a circular footpath taking in the old railway line west of the factories in Station Road. That took even longer, as it involved 3 stretches belonging to Oxford Instruments, the County Council, and Blake's Farm. We got the Oxford Instruments land for a peppercorn rent, and that was ceremoniously passed over to us. The opening was another great village occasion. We invited people to bring their own scissors to cut the tape. Our Morris men dedicated with a display of dancing. Sadly, the railway line walk is now very much under threat from housing and the proposed perimeter road. We could lose all the wildflowers, butterflies, and the 6-spot burnet moths, which make it such a cherished area. Although it is too small to be officially designated a site of special interest, the county ecologist said it deserved to be one. And also the Witchwood Project came and did a survey for us and said it was exceptionally good with wildflowers. It's got scabious and knapwood, perfect for the red spot burnet moth, the 6-spot burnet moth. I was also involved in opening up the gate to cross the Thames Weir in 1998. Before that date, you had to walk the narrow pavement across the toll bridge to get to the towpath. So now you can walk across the field, and you have to bargain with the cows that might be in your way, but it's so much better. More recently, I served on the Neighbourhood Plan Committee set up by our parish council to try and prevent ad hoc planning applications and help preserve our village green spaces in the latest West Oxfordshire local plan. And that, of course, got caught up in the Garden Village proposals. Here is a picture, this is an R picture. Here is a picture of cows grazing on the site. The prospect of losing it came as a terrible shock and worried me dreadfully. But now we have to make the best of it. We have always had swift nests under the eaves of our houses, first in Mill Street, and now where we live in Newland Street. So I've been keen on them for the last 50 years. Those amazing birds like to live in colonies, and we're in danger of losing ours in Eynsham. We all look forward to their joyful screaming parties in June and July as they swoop up and down our streets. They are a real feature of the village. In 2015, I appealed in Eynsham News for people to take care not to disturb the existing nests by roof repairs and renovations. I was very lucky to find that Sarah Cooch shared my passion. Together, we encouraged more than 20 people to provide we provided more than 20 people to provide sites for swift boxes around the village. This is what we're putting up at the moment. None of these have been taken up, although some owners say sparrows like them. But in Bicester, I think they're a year or two ahead of us, and I think they are being taken up now, which is a good sign. It gives me a real feeling of exhilaration to stand in Acre End Street on a warm, sunny evening and marvel at 50 or so swifts zooming around overhead. The memory of coming across a young sparrowhawk sitting on a branch in the little copse in the fish ponds thrills me too. We had noticed a nest in the trees nearby. It was mewing for food. The flash of a kingfisher over the Chilbrook always lifts my spirits, as does seeing badgers in Whiteham Woods. We've done several walks in the late evening. And on one wondrous starlit night, a summer or two ago, I was sitting on my own on the grass behind our house when I heard snuffling round my feet. I switched on my torch, and there were 3 small hedgehogs who continued to stay around and share the evening with me. Finally, I'd like to say throughout my life in Eynsham, I've been lucky to share my love for nature with a succession of fantastic volunteers. It pleases me immensely to see another generation of them working with the same enthusiasm and commitment. And my last picture is of Katrina, who is champion of wildflower meadows, giving a talk to the Eynsham Society members 3 or 4 years ago. And that's it, I think. I think that's it.
Fantastic.
So there we are.
That was very wonderful. Thank you. And I should say that in your picture with everyone holding the trees, there was Roy Wilkinson, who is one of the team who of expert gardeners that was supporting the parish council with the winter maintenance in the car.
Oh, good.
So I don't know but he's continuing to do very sterling work.
Good.
So if anybody has any questions, probably the simplest is to write them in the chat, or you could put your hand up. Lucy, I don't know if you go onto the second screen, if some people are not familiar with using the chat. If you go onto the screen too, then maybe people can just put their hands up if they have a question. Does that work? Would that work?
Yes, I think it should do.
Okay.
You can either put your hand up in the picture, or if you hover along the bottom, I think you should see that there is also a raised hand that you can use there. But
okay.
Or I can just, I think you can unmute
yourself. Lucy's got Oh no, that's not a question, is it? Kevin has got a question. Kevin? You have to unmute yourself.
So thanks for an absolutely wonderful talk. I don't know how you managed to do a history of 50 years, but it was absolutely wonderful. If you had a magic wand and could wave it and had one wish, what would be the thing that you would want to see in 2030? If you could have one big wish, what would that be?
Well, I hope that the sort of cohesion of all these lovely people in Eynsham are still around. I think that there's an awful lot of goodwill, and the volunteers are amazing. People give up so much time, and they make friends. And I think that I'm hoping, and this is one of my hopes, is that the Millennium Wood across the A40 will be close enough to the new garden village, and they will take an interest in it and do a bit more work in it. You know, that they will take it over, because at the moment there needs to be an awful lot of work. There's a lot of brambles to be cut down. Yeah, I think that the village works very well at the moment, and let's hope it carries on.
Yes, Ros, can you unmute yourself? Did you have a question, Ros?
I was just putting my thumb up for Sue.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you.
I think Robin Saunders has got a question. Robin, do you want to ask it?
Am I on now? Sorry.
Yes, you are.
Fantastic.
It was just to say it was so beautifully informative. So, I mean, I've known Sue ever since I've been in the village. Just a wonderful talk. Amazing how much she did. I know on some of the things that she never gave up. And absolutely wonderful, Sue. Really interested talk. Loved it. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's really kind, Robin. Well, you did all the hard work, I think.
You always said that, Sue, but I don't think that's true. But anyway, I'll take the accolade.
Thank you.
Renee wants to ask a question.
Yeah, I guess it follows on from Robin's there. I just love that. It was so wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing. You've obviously affected a lot of change in the time that you've been in the village. And sometimes I think it feels like it comes down to a few very motivated individuals to make that kind of change. And I'm wondering if, from your experiences, there's anything that you've done or been involved with that you felt managed to break out and get more people involved. What kind of strategies of work to get more change happening that we could learn from?
Oh my goodness. Well, obviously, if the area is going to be covered in housing, one obviously galvanizes the people who don't want the whole area covered in housing. That always spurs a great group of people to work together. You need a focus, but you've got it, I think, you know, with your wildflower meadows. I think what you're doing is very good. It's very nice for me to see that, you know, there is a group of younger people who are prepared to do it. There.
Any other questions? Well, oh yes, Nigel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to say that one thing that's quite encouraging about, if there is anything about the Garden Village, it's that the District Council seem to have picked up on the idea of linking Millennium Wood with Vincent Wood through a planting regime.
right.
And I think if we can keep on reminding them about that, that will be very encouraging, given how much is going to be destroyed by the village, Garden Village.
Ooh. But going back to this railway line, which is on the western side of the village, and it's going to be most likely mowed over with tarmac because it's on the perimeter road. It is very sad that this special area of SSI, well, it was actually, we got the ecologist to come and look at it, the county ecologist, Derek Blackwell, to come and look at it. And he said that it was worthy of an SSI to preserve it. So if we can sort of galvanize people to make sure that it isn't covered in Carmack or houses, it's right on the southern side, the railway line. I mean, it'll take 4 or 5 years before they get there, I expect.
Do you know what size it is?
Yes, well, it is actually 283 meters long. It's got an exceptional richness of wildflowers.
Yeah.
And we can't plant trees on it because being a railway line with the railway line clinker stuff and everything, you know, it is a very special site. There was some proposal to move it. I think Polar very kindly said that they would move it, but you could never reinstate it, I don't think. So it is 283 meters long, and it did have, when I watched the slow worm talk yesterday, which was marvelous, it did have reptiles there. We came across a group of boys quite near the factory on the railway site, and we were very disturbed because they quickly sort of turned their back on us and giggled, and they were obviously found some nice things there. And we have seen slow worm there, yes. So
I'm just going to say that they, in 2019, they reduced any rare wildflower habitat over 0.5 hectare could be designated a SSSI.
Right. Well, that might protect it, do you think?
Well, I guess it's not 0.5 hectare, but in any case, you know, of that particular habitat, which it looks like it's the habitat here, you know, there's only 4 square miles left in the UK, which is the size of Heathrow Airport. So there is a very big argument for that it's irreplaceable. I mean, there is this sort of terminology of irreplaceable habitats. So maybe we should.
Trina, I think Dan has a question.
Well, more of a, thanks. More of a comment than a question. First of all, thank you, Sue, and I'm sorry that my Philistine colleagues at the District Council have decided to concrete over everything. My comment really was to say, you know, not everything is lost, and it's really important to keep on campaigning. We are probably going to end up with, well, we're definitely going to end up with the Garden Village.
Yeah.
We're certainly also going to end up with the development to the west of Eynsham. But we absolutely got to keep on campaigning to make sure that it's as inoffensive as it can be and protects as much of the wildlife as it can be. And where it can't, we get something else in exchange. So it was really inspirational, but please keep on campaigning.
I think it's important because a lot of people say, oh, it's not worth it. You know, it's you won't get anywhere. You know, they're going to do it. But you must keep campaigning.
Absolutely.
And the wildflowers in the big field next door to the railway line, I mean, there are orchids there. Oh, and the skylarks, you know, it is an amazing area, which sadly will go under concrete. But there we go. But thank you for what you do on the district.
Let's all congratulate each other. How marvelous. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sue. That was absolutely wonderful. And great inspiration for all of us.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed.
And so just to remind everybody that tomorrow night we've got Kerry talking about photography tips for, what's it, Kerry? I've forgotten the title. Taking photographs on a budget, taking wildlife photographs on a budget. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Just some photos from the local area, maybe, just having fun using different techniques to get some.
Good.
For anybody who doesn't know, Kerry is the most amazing photographer.
Good.
So be there or be square.
Yeah. I must say I've never got my camera, I can never get my camera out quick enough to get the kingfisher or the, so it'd be nice to get tips from him.
He's got them all. They're amazing.
Good.
See you all tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh.